So, trusting love, interesting topic. So, before we get into that, though, I wanted to just remind people that we have a lot of ways of handling our system and of calming ourselves down. There's a tab right on the top of my menu bar on my website called Emergency Practices. One of the cues is to look around the room, and sometimes we'll do this. And if you want to do this right now, we could just take a minute and just look around behind you. Let your eyes take in the safety in the room, and the same to the other side. It's one of the ways that we orient. Someone mentioned before 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where we look around the room and we name out loud using our voice 5 things we can see, 4 things we can touch. There's a lot of practices on there. And breathing is one of those practices that's wonderful if it feels like it's okay to do. And so sometimes when we're really triggered, we might be in a state of freeze. And if that's the case, breathing might feel like it's too intense. So if that's the case, we'd want to focus on something else for a while first. But then other times we could do box breathing or one of those kinds of breathing, or just to kind of relax our belly and let our breath move in our body. That's also very helpful. And kindness and compassion, that this is really absolutely the key that we keep coming back to all the time. Can I be friendly with myself and patient? How can I let myself be human and have all of these reactions that we have and love myself and connect with myself and let myself know that I'm okay? That nothing that I've done or seen or believed is enough to have a permanent disconnection from myself. I can always come back in. So, as we're talking about trusting love, we're working with our primitive brain and nervous system, and we're hardwired for connection. Like just looking at that baby, looking up at her mom is enough to bring a smile to most people's faces. And it also might bring sadness, like, I know that wasn't my situation. So, we have a variety of responses to things. And Stephen Porges, who's another person actually with the polyvagal theory, and Deb Dana, who's been writing a lot about his work, are another good resource. We talked before about The Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk and When the Body Says No by Gabor Mate. And Stephen Porges is also a wonderful resource on the nervous system and safety. An interesting point to remember or to know or consider is that we're vulnerable to manipulation and unhealthy connection because we're wired this way. So we're wired to feel safer when we're protected and we're in a family or community. And for almost all of human evolution, we were in small tribes of 50 to 100 people, maybe at the most. And now we're in a very different world. And our perception of threat is activated all the time because we're looking at threat for people that are all over the world. And we're seeing it in visual images like videos. And we become very concerned. And so part of what's happening is our evolution is not working very well for modern life. And then we bring in romantic love, which we're conditioned to believe that if we're not romantically involved with someone, there's something wrong with us. And some of this is, especially when we're younger, is hormones and the biological need to procreate. But a lot of it is emotional, and we just don't really feel like there's, if we don't have a connection like that, if we don't have a primary person, whether that's a friend or a romantic interest, we feel like there's something wrong and we feel less safe. And then we have the Hallmark Channel and all of these movies like this one with Tom Cruise, I love you, you complete me. And we kind of fall for that because we want it so bad. We want someone to see us who we really are, in spite of all the barriers we put up, in spite of everything. We want someone to see us and connect with us and love us and protect us forever. And we kind of fall for that romantic Hallmark Channel type of love that's promoted in the world. So before we go into the inquiry part, I wanted to bring in something about accurate discernment. I don't know if any of you saw Lie to Me which was a fascinating TV show about micro expressions and the science of how to read people. And Paul Ekman is a doctor whose science was the backup for that. If you look at your own perception of reality, how accurately can you tell if someone is toxic or means well, or is like, how accurately can we perceive our relationships? And this is such an important part of safety because a few weeks ago, we looked at arrested self protection. And one of the ways for me that that has worked is that I wouldn't see the truth of what was happening. I couldn't because I wanted the connection so much that I couldn't afford to see that there were some problems there. And contempt and feeling shamed, walking on eggshells, all of that stuff is a sign of a toxic relationship. And it could also be that we turn that on someone else, or someone is being contemptuous of us, but we can also be really contemptuous of ourselves, that nasty inner critic. So, this area is something that we don't have time to go into a lot today in particular. I'd really encourage you to listen to the Brene Brown podcast with John and Julie Gottman on Spotify. And I just did up a PDF of signs of a healthy relationship and a not healthy relationship that might be helpful as well. So, what we're really looking at is how can I be clear? How can I be letting in the truth? And one of the things that the Gottmans talk about in one of their blogs here is that we need to develop this culture in our relationships of fondness and admiration. And with romance, there's this phase, a limerence phase, that is that falling in love, it's a sexual attraction, that compulsion that happens, and that lasts about 2 years, which I thought was kind of interesting. So nobody with a long-term relationship has that going on anymore. So we had to be able to find a way to work with being in a relationship in a real way without that kind of hormonal, involuntary, I'm in love. We've all experienced people falling off the radar when they're in love. They just so absorbed in each other. So it's the warning signs of what might be kind of cooking underneath that are helpful to look at. So we're going to do a bit of inquiry in that, and that slide just the next slide will bring us some kind of ideas to where to start from. This again is from John and Julie Gottman, that sharing fondness and admiration is the antidote to contempt, and it increases the amount of affection and respect we have in a relationship. So this is important because whether it's our relationship with ourselves or our relationship with another person, we need to have a healthy way to show our fondness and admiration. And sometimes it's not something that we're in the habit of doing. Oftentimes it's not. And it needs to be specific. So I'm proud of the way that you stood up for yourself there. I'm proud of the way that you continued to meditate until you had that breakthrough and then your system settled down. I'm impressed that I like how to get really, really detailed about what we're going to do next. So I'd like to just suggest that we could apply these to our own relationship with ourselves. We could apply these to a close friend or to a romantic partner. So I think it's completely fine to work on any level that you're attracted to working with right now. And their suggestion is that we commit to noticing and expressing something specific 3 times a week. So that would be a big change for many people in a relationship. It would be a big change for many of us in a relationship with ourselves. How often do you really just kind of stop and feel into that, or look in your eyes in the mirror and say, I admire how insightful you are, or how strong you are, or I love that you were laughing so much. To really kind of feel into how could we actually bring more of this into our life. So I'm going to stop talking for a couple minutes. And as you're looking at this list, thoughtful, adventurous, intuitive, respectful, creative, skillful, all these things, either my partner is, or my friend is, or I am. And then see if you could put it into kind of a specific sentence. Sometimes this feels really tough when we try to apply it to ourselves. So you might even start with a friend. And you could really see yourself saying this too, either looking in the mirror or saying it with a friend or a partner. I really appreciate how dependable you are. I can count on you. Or I love it when you open up and tell me the truth of how you're feeling. And continue to notice your body, notice what's happening with your breath. Notice if you tighten up, if you relax, if you stop breathing, if your breath got better. And then finish that off, or you could come back to it. You'll be getting the PDF anyway, so you could come back to it again. And now choose somebody to think about, either yourself, a friend, or a partner. And you could visualize them in your mind's eye, or if you have a photo handy, you could look at that. And sit back and notice your body. And what do you feel in your body as you visualize that person and their relationship with you? So we're really asking our body, what is our body's view of this relationship? We might notice if we're holding our breath, we're clenching our teeth. Do we have a fist in our gut? Do we feel warm and relaxed when we think of the person? And so part of it might be that there are specific memories coming in, but stay really present with the feeling in your body, what's going on in your body and your breath. And notice there might be things going on in your head, in your thought stream, but also notice, what does your heart know? If you just go out of your head and into your heart or into your gut, what's your gut sense? Or what's your felt sense of that in your heart center? And we're going to finish this part of the inquiry in a minute. So just kind of take a few deep breaths, reset that in your body, let your body relax for a minute. And we'll spend about 3 or 4 minutes here. So you'll have time to really kind of sink into this in a felt way. So, working with one person or with yourself, overall, I feel safe with this person. I trust their goodwill, and they or I care about me and I want the best for me. So, these could be doorways in, or there might be something else that you want to follow. Continue to really stay connected in your body. Notice your breath. If you say, overall, I feel safe with this person, and your body tightens up or your breath gets kind of shaky, notice what's there. What is the evidence that might be coming forward? Continue to stay with your breath and body. Just let yourself feel into that. And remember the stabilizing things to work with thoughts. We could tap on our forehead, you could put it in a frame, open your eyes, look at it across the room. You could follow your fingers with bilateral brain stimulation and come back into your body. Notice your breath. We're not really looking at thoughts, we're paying attention to our felt sense in our body. And stating something like this is a reverse inquiry in the Killaby inquiries. And it's meant to bring forward our resistance to that or our, I don't believe that because. So if you say, I trust our mutual goodwill, but your body tightens up, see if you could stay with that and see what comes forward. What is it that's making you hesitate? Just really stay centered in your body and your breath. And then finish what you're doing. Make a note or a mental note to come back to whatever you might want to come back to.